now, Massachusetts has 98% of their citizens covered by health insurance. Oregon has had a plan in effect for a long time. Let's look at what's working. Let's look at what's not working. And rather than having a monolithic, federally based solution with a lot of, to me, the best evidence of why we should be concerned about whether the federal solution is the right solution is the fact that health insurance premiums continue to skyrocket. I mean, here in Connecticut, the health insurance companies have put in rate increases for the amount just below what triggers a public hearing. And we haven't seen any measurable decrease in the rising costs of health care. And that's something that we're going to have to manage.
Should the insurance companies be held responsible for that?
Be held responsible for the rising costs of health care? Well, I think that we have a number of phenomenon that are at work here, and we should look at why it is that the average Medicare beneficiary in Miami costs 3 times more than the average Medicare beneficiary in Honolulu, Hawaii, without measurably different outcomes. We have vastly different rates of utilization. We have a lot of questionable practices, and the U.S. Attorney's Office spends a lot of time looking at how Medicare is taken advantage of.
But you're talking about a state-by-state healthcare solution, but you're also saying that state by state, city by city, there are very different health outcomes. It would almost seem as though some sort of a federal standard, some sort of a federal system makes the most possible sense if indeed you're going to end up with the same outcomes and costs coming out of Honolulu and Miami and Hartford.
Well, I think that states are much closer to the problem than Washington, D.C. is. And many states have been working towards solutions without being prompted by Washington, D.C. And my fear is that this plan that passed is going to end up costing more than anticipated and delivering less than anticipated. This bill contains 21 new taxes, including taxes on the medical device industry. There are companies in Connecticut that make medical devices. They are very afraid that this 2.3% gross receipts tax, whether they make money or don't make money, they're going to have to pay a new tax. And it's going to translate into fewer job opportunities right here in the state of Connecticut. So is $800 billion in new taxes to fund a system that leaves 30 million American citizens with no health care coverage whatsoever the right way to go? I think we can do better. And I do think if states were given the opportunity to figure this out, we could learn a lot rather than taking a monolithic approach.
We're talking with Andrew Roraback. He's the Republican nominee in Connecticut's 5th District congressional race. It's a Where We Vote edition of Where We Live. You can join us at 860-275-7266. Email wherewelive@wnpr.org, or you can tweet us at Where We Live.
Coming up on the next On Point, Voter ID. We'll look at the great battle of 2012 over who will have access to the American ballot box. Plus, a Clockwork Orange at 50, we revisit the great and terrifying transgressive novel of Anthony Burgess. That's coming up on the next On Point from NPR.
Weekday mornings at 10 on WNPR and WNPR.org. Our funding comes from our members and from Twombly Nursery, serving all of Connecticut with its gardening and landscaping design needs. Acres of retail nursery and display gardens featuring unique trees and plants. TwomblyNursery.com or 203-261-2133. And from the World Affairs Council of Connecticut, offering local events that blend serious discussion of international issues with fun, food, and casual conversation about the critical questions of our time. Learn more at ctwac.org. And from the Metro Hartford Alliance and its investors, working to compete for jobs, capital, and talent in the region. Learn how the Metro Hartford Alliance can help you succeed at joinmha.com. That's joinmha.com. Mostly sunny today with temperatures around 71. Mostly cloudy on Tuesday with a chance of late afternoon showers and temperatures near 74. Thanks for listening to WNPR.
This is Where We Live. I'm John Dankosky. I hope you can join me this evening at 6 o'clock for the annual Banned Books event celebrating the freedom to read. It's put on by the Hartford Public Library. It's happening tonight at the Mark Twain branch of the Hartford Public Library, which is located at Hartford Public High School. A group of Hartford area luminaries will be reading passages from books that have once faced censure. I'll be moderating a panel discussion on this topic. Again, 6 o'clock this afternoon or this evening at the Mark Twain branch of the Hartford Public Library. You can find out more at the library's website. Today, we're continuing our Where We Vote series. As a matter of fact, putting a ramp on the 5th District series with Republican Andrew Roraback, who is running for this open seat. If you want to join us, 860-275-7266. Let's go to the phones. Jim is in Burlington. Hi, Jim.
Hi. So, Andrew, you mentioned that you wanted to turn the healthcare reform into a state-by-state laboratory. But the thing is that we've had a state-by-state laboratory for the past 20 years. Very little has happened. Further, the actual the gap that you mentioned of 30 million people exists because of state-by-state discretion. There are a number of conservative states that have decided to forego expansion in Medicaid, which would actually cover those people. And in states that took that money, the people that would be in that gap aren't covered. So I don't get why you think that a state-by-state option would help.
Jim, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, and obviously the Supreme Court decision, which gives states flexibility with respect to the degree to which they expand their Medicaid eligibility, has consequences. But I would definitely want to revisit the Congressional Budget Office's analysis, because I'm not sure that it's predicated on those states making a particular decision, because I think a lot of the states haven't yet made a decision as to what they're going to do. But my point, Jim, is that I think as a society, we can't allow citizens to have access to no coverage whatsoever. And it's actually a conservative position, because the reality is the system that we have now is costing our society a lot of money in a lot of different ways, because people wait to seek treatment before they wait until it's oftentimes too late. And we spend a lot of money dealing with things at the end of the process, where if we had intervened earlier, we could have saved a lot of money. So I'm not afraid to say that Congress needs to direct the states to come up with plans that leave no one without some basic opportunity to have their health care needs met. I've been deeply involved in my community of Torrington in the Northwest Corner in establishing what's called an FQHC, a federally qualified health center. I drove by it this morning on my way to the studio. It says accepting new patients. And so there have been a lot of things that are happening which are moving our society in the right direction, and that we can learn from the models that have been built. Now, that center gets funding from the federal government. That's not a bad thing. But I think that at the end of the day, having a monolithic federal solution may put us in the same place with healthcare that we are with Medicare and Social Security. And those are systems which will go broke if they're not reformed substantially sooner rather than later.
So what are the reforms, and we'll take those piece by piece, Medicare and Social Security, what are the reforms you propose? Because, of course, all Republicans who are running for Congress, or really anything right now, are being put up against the budget plans, the ideas that Mr. Ryan and Mr. Romney have put forward. For instance, Mr. Ryan, who was just in Connecticut yesterday, as a matter of fact, we'll talk about that in a moment, has suggested a type of a voucher system. Do you support the Ryan plan for Medicare reform?
I don't think that privatizing the system is the answer. What I support is both parties checking their partisan agendas and behaving like adults and going into a room in search of solutions which unite us as a people. Solutions which divide us as Americans have proven to be no solutions at all. Now, I'm a Republican, make no mistake about it, but I'm an American before I'm a Republican. And what needs to change in Washington, and what I want to be a catalyst for, is a recognition that as Americans, we have interests which are more important than the partisan interests that each of us brings with our respective philosophies. And I think people often say, look at Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. They came from very different places on the political spectrum. But at the end of the day, each of them recognized that getting something done to improve the quality of life for the people of America was more important than digging in their heels and saying my way or the highway.
You're suggesting, though, that the Ryan plan is, on its face, a divisive plan.
Well, and I would suggest that the other side has also come up with divisive plans because there's been no middle ground for people to try to meet at. Instead of searching for middle ground, what it appears to me as a citizen is that both parties have been going away from the center and making solutions harder to achieve. And I have the courage to be independent. I'm prepared. I would love nothing more than to be named as part of a delegation of members of Congress from both sides who were told to go away for a week and come back with something that all of you can agree to.
So what would your plan be? Yeah.
And hammer it out. I mean, well, my plan would be, instead of playing gotcha, oh, the Democrats said this, the Republicans said that, why don't we take things that the Republicans think are good ideas, and why don't we take things that the Democrats think are good ideas, and why don't we take things that other smart people think are good ideas? Why don't we build from what we can agree to? Is there anything we can agree to?
Is there anything we can agree to?
And I sure think there are lots of things we can agree to, and I'm going to make it my business to flesh those things out. Because if you start, I think we can agree to the fact that in 2037, there will not be another nickel in the Social Security system if we don't make changes. That's a mathematical fact. It's an actuarial fact. So starting with that fact and working backwards from there, what steps can we take? My commitment, and let me just say this emphatically on the record, is that anyone who is 50 years old and older should know that my position is there should be no changes for you to either of those systems. You have earned the right to have the peace of mind to know that Social Security and Medicare will be there for you. If you're under 50 and you want the system to be there for you, understand that there are going to have to be some changes made. And the changes that have to be made need to be changes that can be embraced by all Americans.
Does that mean raising the age at which you could collect benefits?
Well, I think what Republicans and Democrats need to do is, again, come together and discuss what are the options and what options can we agree to, even if we don't like them. So I'm not going to say I want this one or I want that one. What I'm going to say is I want a solution, and I'm prepared to swallow some things that I don't like so much in order to get a solution. And I'm hoping that people whose philosophy is different than my own will come to that conclusion as well. I did a fellowship with the Aspen Institute, which took me to China and India and Israel, Egypt, and Jordan over 2 years. 12 young Republican leaders and 12 young Democratic leaders came together on 5 separate occasions. And we came from very different places, geographically, politically, philosophically, educationally. And what we learned over the course of that fellowship is there are problems that transcend partisan politics. Lots of problems in our society. And if people of goodwill commit themselves to finding solutions to those problems, you can find solutions.
You were asked, though, about the Paul Ryan budget, for instance, because people have aligned you with supporting that, and you said, no, I do not support the Paul Ryan budget. But you did say, I think our plan is a much better plan than that which is being offered by the other side. You're essentially saying that the Republican plan that's out there is better than the Democratic plan. I know you're looking for middle ground here, but that sounds like a partisan statement.
But understand that the word plan that I was referring to is the global plan of my party not to be raising taxes on January 1st. Now, that's a pretty big area of demarcation. There's class warfare being played out in this campaign. The truth of the matter is, if this fiscal cliff that we're going to go over on January 1st, the first consequence that everyone needs to be very mindful of, and this is confirmed by a study which is done by Ernst & Young, we're going to lose 0.5% of all of the jobs that we have in America. So we're going to lose 700,000 jobs at a time when we most need jobs. If we raise taxes on January 1st, we're going to lose a lot of jobs. Now, people need to understand that what's in store is that the tax on dividends is slated to go from 15% to 43%. The tax on capital gains is slated to go from 15% to 23 or 24%. Those tax increases at a time when this economy is struggling to recover are going to have bad effects on job creation. What I've learned in Connecticut, and I've learned a hard lesson, is that Governor Malloy, I don't think, got it right. Imposing the largest tax increase ever in the depths of an economic downturn has not translated into economic recovery in this state. UConn just released a study last week. While other states' economies are beginning to grow and feel the effects of the economy, Connecticut's economy is still shrinking.
But unlike the federal government, he can't print money. He has to balance a budget every year.
I understand. Yeah. But like the federal government, we need to reduce spending in this state, too, to levels that we can afford as a people. I'm not someone who suggests that reducing spending is painless or easy or no problem. Every reduction in spending is going to hurt. It's going to hurt someone. It's going to hurt someone potentially in a serious way. But we're all going to hurt a whole lot if we continue to bury our heads in the sand. Someone said to me the other day, it's you can see Greece from our shoreline, and what's happening in Greece is what may be in store for us if we don't collectively buckle down and act responsibly.
We're talking with Andrew Roraback, who's running for the open 5th District Congressional seat. He's a Republican and a state senator. You can join us at 860-275-7266. Doug is calling from Plainville. Hi, Doug.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
I'm a conservative Republican. I voted for Senator Roraback in the primary, and I haven't liked what I've heard during the general election. And before I say, I remorse or I regret my decision, I wanted to give the senator an opportunity to tell, economic conservatives like me, that you're with us. How do you reassure us that you are with us on those important issues?
Well, Doug, I would answer the question in this way. I don't think that raising taxes on January 1st is a good idea. My opponent embraces the president's proposal to have a very big tax increase on January 1st.
And again, this is the tax increase that has to do with the Bush era tax credits. And so essentially the Obama position, the Democratic position is that the taxes on people at $250,000 a year and more would be changed. Not those below $250,000.
Actually, I think it's individuals at $200,000, couples at $250,000. But understand that 53% of people in that category are people that own small businesses, LLCs, subchapter S corporations, who are making their money through a business. And the options they have are, do I invest my profits in growing my business, in hiring new people, in expanding my plant, my equipment, or do I